It's on the property of the old Briar Motorsports Park. It plays host to the Winston Cup Series, well, maybe in the future. But for this weekend, it's the Busch Grand National cars here to inaugurate this 1-mile racetrack. But tonight, we've got a multifaceted show. First off, we'll update you on Darrell Waltrip's medical condition in the aftermath of his accident at Daytona a week or so ago. And then two fellas join us tonight with very different stories. But of course, like everybody in racing, the goal is the same, to win races and win championships. For Chuck Bown, well, he's only batting .500 in the last 10 races. 5 wins in the last 10 Busch Series events will join the driver of the Nescafe Classic Pontiac. And as for Morgan Shephard, well, he's in the midst of a marriage with veteran car owner Bud Moore that maybe honestly, folks didn't think it would work. It was a marriage that folks very honestly said, this is just not going to click. Well, they proved all the experts wrong, because Morgan Shephard and Bud Moore together led the Winston Cup point standings for a number of weeks, and only in the aftermath of last weekend's race at Daytona did they drop to spot number 5 in the points. Nevertheless, it's a potent team combination, and the driver of the Motorcraft Ford is with us here tonight. If you'd like to join us in conversation, it is toll-free from anywhere across the country, 1-800-541-5551. That's the number for This Week in NASCAR. We are coming to you from Concord, New Hampshire, the Ramada Inn, and tonight, your chance to chat with Chuck Bown and Morgan Shephard as we return on Prime Network. Stay with us.
You know, that Ara Parsegan is some guy. After years of touting Plasticoat, now he's happy to share the spotlight with me. Ara's a real professional. He taught me everything he knows. How well Plasticoat covers, how long it lasts, the huge variety, the high quality. There isn't a thing that he left out. I really like this idea of sharing the spotlight. How about you, Ara?
The Chevy Lumina Coupe looks like this in Paramount Pictures' new movie, Days of Thunder. And this is what it looks like without its war paint. On the screen and in the street, nobody's winning like it.
Heartbeat of America, as the days shall lay.
The Thunder rolls this summer. So don't miss Paramount's new movie, Days of Thunder. And stop at Exxon for your Days of Thunder family fun book. An inside look at the filming of Days of Thunder and news on NASCAR racing, games, driving tips, and all sorts of puzzles. They're available at participating Exxon stations. But they're going fast.
To tell you about an exciting new way to follow Winston Cup racing, here's Dale Earnhardt.
No matter how tired I am after a Winston Cup race, I always take time for the Winston Cup Hotline. No matter whether I win or lose, I'm Victor Lane or I'm talking about what happened, I've got an interesting story to tell. So call Winston Cup Hotline.
10 top drivers every week on Winston Cup Hotline. Call 1-900-446-9287.
And get the news straight from the driver's seat.
North to New Hampshire. We are here at the Ramada Inn in Concord. We welcome you aboard to This Week in NASCAR. I'm Eli Gold. And again, if you'd like to join us in conversation, it is toll-free, 1-800-541-5551. And tonight, 2 veteran drivers joining us. One who actually makes a return to the state of New Hampshire. He lived here for 7 years. Chuck Bown, the points leader in the Busch Grand National Series. And in the red shirt to Chuck's left is Morgan Shephard, driver of the Texas Pete car in the Busch Series and the Motorcraft Ford on the Winston Cup Tour. Fellas, thanks so much for joining us. And I think, Chuck, it's fair to say that coming back up here for you, you kind of dominated this racetrack when it used to be a road course in the 3 visits that you ran. So this is kind of a homecoming for you.
Well, that's true, Eli. I have a lot of fond memories of Loudon Motorsport Park, which is now Loudon International Speedway, and really looking forward to the race Sunday.
And Morgan, you like challenges. That's been an earmark of your career, and coming to a brand new racetrack for the first time has got to be one of the ultimate challenges. When you walk in, point zero, you've never even seen the place, and you've got to make a race car work.
Well, I think this is going to be new for everybody, you know, because it's a totally new racetrack, and we're all going to be pretty much on even ground. And I tell you, it's just a fine facility. I'm real thankful that they invited us all up, and I'm glad I came.
There's going to be 300 laps on this racetrack. I know you fellas are as interested as everybody is as to Darrell Waltrip's condition. I want to update you. I had a chance to spend some time with Darrell on Tuesday. He's doing just fine. As a matter of fact, he said, if I didn't know that my elbow had a hairline fracture, I wouldn't even realize it. He said he felt that good. The knee is coming along so well that they released him from the hospital today down at Halifax Medical Center in Daytona. And one of the interesting situations was he had a conversation with his doctor, Dr. Gillespie, who had been treating Darrell for the injuries and the surgery on his left knee. And earlier today, there was a press conference held in Daytona. Now, the video is not the very best, but we felt you'd want to see it anyway. And a comment or two that Darrell made after his conversation with the doctor.
He's telling me all the things that are wrong with my leg and all the things I'm going to have to do to get back to where I can walk again and all the things that are going to be required, rehabilitation and whatnot, and real tight-lipped and real serious. And I listened and I said, I understand perfectly, Doc. I said, I see the situation we're in, and I know you've done a great job fixing my leg. I can tell because, you know, I was already moving it a little bit then. And I said, I think I can go along with everything you're saying if you'll help me do one thing. And he said, yeah, I think, what is it? I got to run 2 laps in 2 weeks at Pocono. And he about fell on the floor. He said, did you not hear what I said?
Now, one thing we got to explain, that's what race drivers are all about. Just get back out there. The 2 laps Darrell was referring to, you run 1 lap on Saturday in practice to kind of qualify yourself for the race car, and then Darrell plans to run 1 lap during race day on Sunday at Pocono, a week from this Sunday, and then turn the driving chores over. The talk still seems to be as though Jimmy Horton will drive the race car for the next couple of races at Pocono and Talladega. Then potentially car owner Rick Hendrick to climb behind the wheel at Watkins Glen. And they're also mentioning Bobby Hamilton, the Busch Grand National driver, to do some of the short track racing in Darrell's absence. But I know you fellas are happy to see Darrell come back. It's tough. You've had injuries, Morgan. I remember last year there were honestly some races there in and around Daytona when you might not have really felt like climbing back into a race car. But in this business, you have to.
Well, you know, at Daytona, we crashed our Busch car on Friday in practice, and I had to go to the hospital that night, and I had a broken rib, and during the race, I messed up a disc in my back too, and I lost use of my right arm, so I drove the whole race with my left arm, and on the last pit stop, 20 laps to go, I lost use of it, and so I was in pretty bad shape. It took 5 guys to pull me out of the car at the end of the race.
Let's take a look at Lanier Raceway in Gainesville, Georgia, as we now zero in on both of our guests for the evening. Chuck Bown, as we mentioned, is a man who over the last few weeks has all of a sudden gone on to dominate Busch Series racing like never before. I guess the obvious question is, Chuck, what has the number 63 car done differently here of late? Because all of a sudden, Jeff Hensley, Hubert Hensley, yourself as the driver, you've gotten it dialed in like nobody else can imagine.
Well, Eli, you know, last year was my first year with the Busch Grand National Series, and the first year with Jeff and Hubert and Nescafe, and you know, we had a lot to learn, I guess, and we had a lot of bad luck. And I truly think luck is the number one thing that separated last year from this year. We had a lot of strong runs last year, but we just couldn't get to the checkered flag. Something would go wrong somewhere along the line. So we kind of regrouped over the winter and took last year's weaknesses and tried to turn them into this year's strengths, and that with a little bit of luck on our side, and we've been able to accomplish what we felt we could. But everybody stayed up and worked hard. Even though times were tough, we knew we had what it took, and we could turn that thing around, and we did, and it's been a great year so far.
Of course, not to downplay anything, Chuck's last victory was just this past Sunday night in Oxford, Maine. It's a very, very tough racetrack, to say the very least, and en route to the victory, Chuck passed about 150 or 160 cars over the course of the evening, so that's how well that race car is working. When we come back, your turn to join us with toll-free phone lines. We open it up at 1-800-541-5551 on This Week in NASCAR. We're coming right back. Ever have one of those?
Everybody knows that milk's for babies. Charming, disarming, whatever they do. Wouldn't you know it, baby? Milk's for you. Soft baby skin, strong baby bones, bright baby smile, and blue-gray
man who really loves his golf. Nothing will stand in his way when he wants to play. He'll play anywhere. Trouble, however, can be encountered on any golf course. Hazards like heavy rough. Golf Digest magazine can help. Every golfer wants to improve, but the golfer who improves most reads Golf Digest. For him, sand shots are easy. Golf Digest's instructional articles can even see you through the perils of a water hazard. Your favorite course may be less treacherous than this one, but probably no less demanding. Wherever you play, play better with Golf Digest.
Get a full year of Golf Digest for $19.77. Call 800-241-6600 now and get our free half-hour instructional video with your paid subscription. Call 800-241-6600 now.
From the Trump Plaza in Atlantic City to the fabulous forum in Inglewood, California, Nesson brings you the very best in boxing thrills. If you're a fight fan, you'll love the action right here on your New England Sports Network. So tune in as top contenders from both the pro and amateur ranks battle it out in the ring on MSG Boxing. Fight Night, the Golden Glove, plus much, much more. For the heavy hits and knockout blows, stay right here with Nesson, your ticket to boxing.
This is Nesson, your ticket to New England sports.
We are back with you as Prime Network continues coverage of This Week in NASCAR. Eli Gold with guests Morgan Shephard and Chuck Bown. A quick reminder about our upcoming shows. Next week we'll be with you in the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania at the Holiday Inn Lake Harmony up in the Pocono region. Sterling Marlin will be our guest, the driver of the Sunoco Old. So if you're up in that area, come on out and join us at the Holiday Inn. And in 2 weeks' time, as the Winston Cup Tour moves back to Talladega Superspeedway, we'll be with you from the International Motorsports Hall of Fame and Museum right there at the Speedway. So if you're listening or watching in the area of Central Alabama or heading there for the Die Hard 500, hope you can join us that Thursday evening from the International Motorsports Hall of Fame. Ready to take a few phone calls for both Morgan Shephard and Chuck Bown. Martha is watching tonight out in Chino, California. Hello.
Morgan Shephard, we'd like to tell you we're truly Morgan Shephard racing fans. And we'd like to say, Gerald Roger, please get well.
Sure.
My question is, whatever happened to NASCAR's last right road racing series? And will we be seeing a lot more road racing events in the season to come?
The old LR series. They never really came up with a race car that would get everything done, did they?
No, that series just didn't go very far, and it really didn't get off the ground.
Chuck, you like road racing? In the few instances, obviously, up here you did well. Is it something you take quickly to?
I think so. I was fortunate when I started driving. The 11th race I ever ran was at Riverside, California,
Right.
So I got the taste of it at 18 years old. But it's a lot of fun. It's a lot different than the oval track racing, turning both ways and shifting. And I got excited when the rumors come around about L&R, but it never materialized, so we'll just have to wait.
L&R stood for left and right, if you're curious. You got along pretty well on the road courses after you settled in. It didn't start all that auspiciously at Sears Point this year, but once the Motorcraft Ford got dialed in, you got around fairly well.
I've always run pretty good. The first time I ran a road course was at Riverside, and I think I qualified the first time out ninth, and I moved up to fifth just in no time, but because of inexperience, I tore the rear end out by gearing the car down too hard, and I've just always done well on the road course.
Let's take a call from Ken, viewing here in Massachusetts, or nearby, I should say, in Massachusetts. Hello.
Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome to New England.
Thank you.
My question is for Morgan Shephard. Other than qualifying and the actual race itself, what is the most important part of the week for him? Is it the fans, the garage area, or publicity?
Well, the most important part to me is to get the race that weekend, but seeing all the fans, I really enjoy this part of the country. You know, I've been coming up to Oxford, Maine for quite a few years, and I always look towards Oxford, Maine as a vacation up in this area because the people up here are so good to us when we come up. I just really enjoy coming up and meeting everybody.
I'm sure you talked about this being a vacation for Maine last week. Not going to be anything but a vacation for you.
Well, it's a lot of work, and we're here to race, and you know we've gotten off to a good start with Oxford 250, and we're really looking forward to to this one in New Hampshire. But I came a couple of days early with my family and seen some friends up in the Franconia area where I used to live, and I'm going to sneak around one extra day when New Hampshire's over and see some more, and then get back down south and continue the racing.
Let's go out to Ontario, California. John is next. Hello.
Hi, Morgan. How you doing?
Great.
Hey, my name is John Morgan, and I was wondering, I noticed that there's only one driver there in Winston Cup that drives a Ford in the Winston Cup and the Grand National Series. That's Mark Martin. And you drive a Ford in the Winston Cup, but drive another make in Grand National. I wonder how come there's not too many Fords in the Grand National Series right now.
Well, Ford is not that far along with their V6 program, and they're just fixing to bring out a lot of new parts, and as soon as they get them approved by NASCAR, I've got 2 new Fords at home that we're working on, and we're going to be doing some racing with them as the season shortens up, but that's the biggest reason, the parts that's available.
But you were probably listening to our conversation before, if you could have, because Morgan and Chuck and I were talking about him going to a Ford Thunderbird in Busch Racing, something unusual with everybody else shifting away from the T-Birds. When we come back, more of your calls and comments on This Week in NASCAR. Don't leave us now. We're coming right back.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines. Then call 1-900-370-PRE for the chance to win a trip for 2 to the Texaco Haviland Grand Prix of Denver. Win airfare, accommodations, tickets, souvenirs, VIP passes, and a ride on the Transporter Parade float. And stay on the line for the latest during race week. Each 50th caller wins a t-shirt or hat. Each 100th caller a jacket. Call 1-900-370-PRE. $1.25 first minute, 75 cents each additional.
The Thunder rolls this summer. So don't miss Paramount's new movie, Days of Thunder. And stop at Exxon for your Days of Thunder family fun book. An inside look at the filming of Days of Thunder and news on NASCAR racing, games, driving tips, and all sorts of puzzles. They're available at participating Exxon stations. But they're going fast.
Now there's no reason to miss your favorite racing on TV. Racetime magazine each month provides the only complete and accurate TV listings of all motorsports, racing, and special features. Network, cable, or satellite. If it's racing on TV, you'll find it listed in Racetime. Racetime is not available on newsstands, so catch all the racing action by subscribing now. Call 1-800-RACES-TV. That's 1-800-RACES-TV. Why miss another race? Call now.
To tell you about the Winston Cup Hotline, here's Darrell Waltrip.
Winston Cup racing is the most exciting sport in the world, and now you can get the news about Winston Cup racing from your favorite driver. Just call the Winston Cup Hotline. Select the driver that you'd like to hear from and get the news firsthand with a new message each week. Dial 1-900-446-9287 to hear from your favorite driver.
We are back with you in Concord, New Hampshire, as This Week in NASCAR gets set to preview the opening of the New Hampshire International Speedway. The Busch Grand National Series on hand. Today was to have been a practice day of a couple or 3 hours, but the rain showers in and around the area held most of the teams to 6 or 7 laps on the racetrack. So tomorrow is the first serious practice day, with action beginning at 12 noon Eastern time here tomorrow. We've got a questioner right here in the audience joining us. PJ from Charlottesville, Virginia has a question. Hello.
Eli, how you doing?
Very well, thank you.
We want to tell you we appreciate your show back in Charlottesville. I have a question for Chuck. Chuck, I heard that there was going to be some V8s running in the race tomorrow. Is that true? And if it's so, why is that?
Yes, that is true. In the Busch Grand National North Division, the V8s are still eligible. They run the same carburetor and the same weight that we run with the V6s, but I believe they can run a 311 high compression engine, 311 cubic inches, or a 356 cubic inch engine with a 9-to-1 compression. So it keeps things pretty equal. For years, there was a lot of V8s around up in the Northeast, and they're just trying to save the cost a little bit for the Busch Grand National North guys.
Our next call is from Chris in Morgantown, North Carolina. Hello.
Hello, Eli.
How are you tonight?
Chuck. Congratulations, Chuck, on your great run at Oxford.
Thank you.
I got a question for Morgan. How does Ford and Chevrolet feel about you running different makes of cars on the Winston Cup and Busch Grand National Circuit?
Well, before I went to driving this other make of car, I talked to Ford about it, and at that time there wasn't enough parts available to run the V6 Ford competitively, we felt like, and they gave me their blessings, and it should be within the next 2 weeks that they'll have plenty of parts available, and we'll be running the Ford V6 in some races.
Let's go out to Rimrock, Arizona. Sounds like something right out of the Flintstones. John is watching. Hello.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I want to congratulate you on your show. I'm having to call earlier and earlier to try to get through.
Well, we're glad you gotten through. What's up?
I want to ask Chuck. I'm from the West Coast, and I'm glad to see somebody from the West Coast finally going out east and doing so well. I want to know, is it difficult to do, and what kind of budget are you looking at? Because that's a move that I'm anticipating making in my racing career someday.
We should establish you began in Portland, Oregon, then to Charlotte, then to New Hampshire, and now in Ridgeway, Virginia. It has been a tough road, but obviously it's paying off now.
Yes, that's true. It's been a long, tough road. As far as a budget, when I first moved, I just sold my house and packed up my family and moved. There was no budget. I was looking and wishing and hoping. And, that was back in 1978, so it's been a long, tough road. And Chuck Bown has just kind of went wherever the opportunities were, which meant a little bit of racing down south, hoping to do Winston Cup, and not getting very lucky. So then I headed up to New England for the NASCAR North Series and had a lot of success up there. And after several years, I decided it was time to get back down south because it had grown a lot. A lot more sponsors were involved, and Busch Grand National Series had grown a lot, and I had a little better credentials, so I made another move and got together with the current team I'm with, and still trying to get the Winston Cup though. But it's a sacrifice. You have to really want to race to do what I've done, but I do it all over again. I've been very fortunate.
Before we take our next call, it leaves us to the obvious question: how far are you away now from securing the sponsorship you need for Winston Cup racing?
Well, I wish I had that answer. I really don't know. We're proposing a program for next year to run a limited schedule with Hensley Racing and a full schedule in '92, but we don't know if that's going to happen yet or not. We've got our fingers crossed, and if it doesn't, I'll look at other options too. But, Jeff and Hubert have been awful good to me, and they like to win, and they're fun to race with. I hope we can work something out.
Carl is watching tonight on the Sunshine Network down in Pembroke Pines, Florida. Hello.
Hi, Eli, Morgan, Chuck. How y'all doing?
Good, thank you.
Long may Darrell race. That's the first thing. Then the other thing is, I have a two-part question, basically. First, Jeff Bodine remarked about the wreck last week on the second lap, that the cars couldn't get away from each other. So I want to know is what else could be done to slow the cars down other than the restrictor plate? And in the case of a wreck like last week's, how are the driver point positions determined when multiple cars on the same lap are taken out?
Okay, to answer that element of the question, they go back to the preceding lap, how you came across the scoring stand or across the start-finish line, and they revert to the preceding lap in the case of 20 cars ending up in a giant situation. What happened, though, this past week at Daytona, even if you didn't have restrictor plates, you would have still been bunched up after only one lap around a 2.5-mile racetrack. I don't know if we can point to the restrictor plate as being the fault of what took place last weekend.
Well, Eli, there was some things happened when the cars went through inspection that they found wrong, and I think it took some horsepower away from the cars, and they backed up in that situation. But, my theory, the restrictors is not the answer. I think what's happened, the race cars have outgrown Daytona and Talladega, because that's the only two racetracks that we have the problem. And the only way to correct those racetracks is to flatten the corners out. But, whether that ever happen, I don't know. But, and then you can do away with the restrictors.
Yeah, that would be a major undertaking, though.
Yeah.
We're coming back with more of your calls and comments for Morgan Shephard and Chuck Bown. The name of our show, This Week in NASCAR. We are live from Concord, New Hampshire. We'll be right back.
Everybody knows that milk's for babies, charming, disarming, whatever they do. Wouldn't you know it, baby? Milk's for you. Soft baby skin, strong baby bones, bright baby smile, ooh, great muscle tone. Wouldn't you know it, baby? Milk's for you. It's a health kick, baby.
excitement of the Ascot Speedway Challenge, Friday afternoon at 5, right here on NESN. Check out the top players in the world when 1990 Volvo Tour Golf brings you the Monte Carlo Open here on NESN. Defending champion Mark McNulty will have to hold off a tough field featuring Ian Woosnam and Roger Davis. Plus, get a tip on how to improve your game from the reigning champ. So tune in for 1990 Volvo Tour Golf, Friday afternoon at 2 on NESN.
Catch the fun and excitement when Pro Beach Volleyball continues here on your New England Sports Network. This time, the action comes from the shores of Lake Michigan as the boys serve it up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So come on down and check out all the slams and the spikes Tuesday night at 10:30. It's right here on NESN, your ticket to Pro Beach Volleyball.
Our congratulations to Kirk Shelmerdine. He's the crew chief on Dale Earnhardt's GM Goodwrench Chevrolet. Winners again last week at the Pepsi 400 at Daytona. $1,000 on the way to Kirk. Compliments of Plastic Coat as the winner of the Winning Finish Award. Eli Gold along with Morgan Shephard and Chuck Bown. Morgan right there in car number 15, the Motorcraft Ford, going around Brett Bodine there at North Wilkesboro, North Carolina. That was a heck of a race, but it's been a heck of a season as you hang on there. What were your thoughts going into this year, Morgan? I mean, there were people who really felt that you and Bud Moore, although both proven veterans, might take a while to really mesh. And I don't think we've seen a team mesh as quickly as you fellas have this year.
Well, every time you go up or go in with a new team, you know, you hope things are going to work out. And sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. Unfortunately, I've had more of them that didn't. But I felt good about the Bud Moore team, and it just so happened everything clicked for us. The chemistry was there. We worked well together.
And there we watch you battle Dale Earnhardt at the Martinsville Speedway earlier this 1990 racing season. If you'd like to join us in conversation, it is toll-free, 1-800-541-5551. Let's talk about this racetrack here this week, and we touched very briefly on the fact that it is brand new. First time ever on the racetrack was Tommy Houston a few weeks ago doing a tire test for Goodyear. What do you fellas do when you first show up? And even today in the rain, we saw a lot of drivers out there in their passenger cars. Can you learn something even going slowly in a passenger car as to how to drive a racetrack, Morgan?
Yes, you can. You know, if you just go out and get a feel for the corners, look at the corners, where you're going to turn at, you can pretty much figure it out before you ever go out in a race car. But I don't think walking around it can do what driving a car around can do for you.
What do you look for, braking points, Chuck, stuff like that? Or do you have to just be in the race car for that?
Yeah, I think for actual braking points, you have to be in the race car. But like Morgan was saying, even in a family car, at least you can get a perspective of heading down the straightaway and what that corner looks like as you're coming up onto it, and where you might want to enter the corner to get through it the best you can. And even though it was damp today, I've managed to get about 7,600 RPM out of my car, which is only about 400 or 500 RPM short of what we're running the dry. So, I was within about 3 seconds. So I think it gives you something to think about tonight anyway to plan for tomorrow.
Our next caller is viewing us tonight out in San Diego, California. Hello.
Hello, this is Jan, and I would like to congratulate Prime Network on recognizing the sport of stock car racing.
And certainly the folks at Prime Ticket out in your area, we thank them as well.
We enjoy it here, but I would like to know how you keep cool in those cars besides the cool suits.
You don't. I don't think you ever really keep cool. You just try to keep the conditions where you can stand them. And we do different things. For instance, in our Motorcraft Thunderbird, I've got a blower that's a suction blower actually that comes out of boats that I take air off the window and I blow it right in my face. And then we put a little scoop on the left side of the car that pulls air in and blows it in our face. I've tried the cool suit, I think once, and I really didn't like them too well. If we can get air on us and stay cool enough that we can survive it, I feel like that's the best way.
Even if it's warm air?
Well, at Daytona, the air was actually so hot that when it was hitting my hands, it was burning my hands.
That's amazing. Let's go to Ohio for our next questioner. Good evening.
Hello.
Hi, how are you tonight, Amy?
Good. I have a couple little questions here. One thing, what is the advantage from front steer to rear steer steering, and why isn't there any Winston Cup racetracks in Ohio?
Well, basically, none exist. You have Mid-Ohio Road Course out there in Lexington, and you have the Burke Lakefront Airport that the kart series uses for their road race just this past weekend, the Budweiser Grand Prix. But as far as formal ovals or other established tracks, there are none, and there aren't that many holes on the schedule right now. That's a big problem, too.
If you want to talk about the front steer, rear steer deal, both cars are good. I mean, take Harry Gant. He won Pocono here a few weeks ago in a rear steer car. But probably 95% or maybe more of the cars are front steer cars. And the reason that is, the front steer has less toe-out change in the car, and Goodyear is leaning towards the radial tire, and the radial tire doesn't like much toe change in the car when the wheels go up and down. And that's the reason that most everybody is switching to the front steer car, because they have very little. Our right front tire will bump out maybe 15 thousandths at 2 inches. On a rear steer car, they bump out as much as 180 to 250 thousandths. Well, the radial tire doesn't like that. It darts real bad on the super speedways. So that's the reason most everybody's changing to front steer cars.
Interesting explanation. Morgan Shephard and Chuck Bown, our guests tonight. More of your calls and comments on This Week in NASCAR on Prime Network right after this.
Days of Thunder is a motion picture about a driver, his car, and the will to win. And so is this motion picture, the Chevy Lumina Coupe. On the track and on the street, nobody's winning like.
The heartbeat of America, that's today's Chevrolet.
The Thunder rolls this summer. So don't miss Paramount's new movie, Days of Thunder. And stop at Exxon for your Days of Thunder family fun book. An inside look at the filming of Days of Thunder and news on NASCAR racing, games, driving tips, and all sorts of puzzles. They're available at participating Exxon stations. But they're going fast.
Now you can be a team member at all the big racing events, including NASCAR, IndyCars, Trans Am, NHRA, and SCORE. Motorsports fans become a charter member of the exciting Chevrolet Bowtie Brigade Club. Call 1-800-CHEVY-2U. Bowtie Brigade membership benefits include discounts on race tickets, the Chevy Thunder newsletter 6 times a year, discounts on Chevrolet Motorsports apparel, and a subscription to Chevrolet High Performance Magazine. Call now and become a charter member for just $29.95 plus $3 postage and handling. You'll receive a membership kit complete with an exclusive Bowtie Brigade t-shirt, hat, pin, decal, and membership card. Dial 1-800-CHEVY-2U day or night. Plus exclusive Meet the Drivers events for members who want to be part of the action. Bowtie Brigade charter member rates are just $29.95 plus $3 postage and handling. Membership operators are on duty 24 hours a day. Use Visa, MasterCard, or American Express now. We welcome you back to This Week in NASCAR. I'm Eli Gold. Our guests tonight, Chuck Bown, driver of the Nescafe Classic Pontiac on the Busch Grand National Series. Morgan Shephard to my immediate right. He drives the Texas Pete car here in Busch Grand National competition, the Motorcraft Ford for Bud Moore and Winston Cup races. Of course, the Winston Cup Tour is idle this weekend, but many of the series drivers are up here to help inaugurate the brand new New Hampshire International Speedway. Let's go out to California for our next question. Good evening. Hello, Johnny.
Questions for Morgan Shephard?
Sure. Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to know, Morgan, after all the years of the bad luck, how does it feel to finally be on top of the Winston Cup?
Great.
It'll be a good feeling after all the years you've put in.
You know, sometimes I was wondering if it was ever going to happen, and it's just been a lifelong dream for Morgan Shephard for this to finally happen, because after all, you know, I thought I was going to run out of years before I ever got a top-notch ride, and to end up with a team like Bud Moore, it was a dream come true.
How about yourself, Chuck? With Jeff Hensley and Hubert Hensley, safe to say, certainly a far different background from yourself. Not unlike Morgan and Bud getting together, and all of a sudden you've clicked as well.
Well, that's true. You know, I can appreciate what Morgan's saying. I know he's, you know, you need a good team to go out and win races, and you know, I've got that right now with Jeff and Hubert, and you know, our backgrounds are a lot different, but our backgrounds are racing.
That's true.
And anybody that's seen the new Days of Thunder movie, the Harry Hog there, kind of reminds me a little bit of Hubert. You know, he's kind of that way. Victory lane's not his deal, but getting that checkered flag is.
Let's go out to Carl. He's watching in Utah this evening. Hello.
Yes, I got a question for both Eli and Morgan.
All right, Carl.
What are your thoughts of Dale Earnhardt?
What are our thoughts of Dale Earnhardt? I like the man personally, and that's one thing. A lot of folks, even though the drivers are so very accessible, a lot of people just don't have the opportunity to meet, be it yourself, Chuck, Earnhardt, whomever, up close and personal, as they used to say. I mean, here's a nice guy with definitely one style, one persona on the racetrack, and he's really as nice a guy as you'd want to meet.
Dale's a great person. He's a great person to race with. I love to race with Dale because I know I'm going to get a real battle, and we can beat and bang on one another and do the kind of racing we like to do, you know. Dale's all right in my book.
He really is. John is watching in Madeira, California this evening. Hello.
Hi, Eli.
Hello.
Hi, Morgan.
Hey.
Hey, you got a lot of fans down here in Madeira.
Thank you.
Sears Point.
Thank you.
Congratulations. One quick question. Why aren't your cars, and I'm your fan, believe me, aren't your cars qualifying a little better this year up front?
Well, let's see. We could blame it on the driver. We could blame it on the car owner. We're just, we haven't got to that point, you know, where we've really worked on trying to get a pole yet. We've been trying to work on our program to get it consistent where we could finish races, and it's all worked out well for us. But believe you me, we're going to start doing some testing here before long and try to get on track where we can get us a pole before the season's over with and get our Motorcraft Thunderbird up front.
We've got Dale from Woburn, Massachusetts, joining us here in the audience tonight. Hello, Dale.
How are you doing?
Good.
Congratulate all three of you for all having great seasons. All three of you are. Chuck, I'd like to ask you, what do you think about Busch Grand National adding New Hampshire as a full-time racetrack on the series, and can you fit it into your schedule full-time?
Well, sure. I think it's great. I'm glad that we're up here. It's a great facility, and I think the New England fans deserve it. You know, they love racing up here, too, and I'm glad to see it all happen. Very glad.
As a matter of fact, the Busch Series will be here later this year again. The NASCAR Modified Tour will be running here in New Hampshire. The Grand National North will be here as part of a triple header later in the season, so there's lots to learn about this racetrack. It's brand new. We'll see for the very first time how many fans get in this weekend, the ingress and egress as far as traffic are concerned. There's a lot of questions to be answered here this weekend. Mike is watching us down in Florida this evening in Riverview. Hello, Mike.
How you doing?
Good, thank you.
I got one question for Morgan. How do you acquire the sponsorship for Winston Cup racing?
There's the $4 million question.
Yeah, right. Well, to tell you the truth, that's something that I haven't ever been able to do, and that's one of the things that's kept me down in racing. I did do a test program for Heinz Ketchup, a 5-race deal, but I just kind of looked up on that, and as far as the Motorcraft team that I'm with now, I've had nothing to do with that. It takes a lot of good PR people to go out and seek out these type sponsors, and it's just something that Morgan Shephard or Chuck, we don't have time to do because we're busy trying to make the race cars go fast, and it's a very tough job.
But at the same time, if you're like Morgan and you were up near leading the Winston Cup points, or like Chuck Bown, winning 5 of the last 10 Busch races, that goes a long way towards impressing a sponsor. We are coming back with more of your questions and comments. This Week in NASCAR is live from Concord, New Hampshire on Prime Network. We'll be right back.
Charming, disarming, whatever they do. Wouldn't you know it, baby? Milk's for you. Soft baby skin, strong baby bones, a bright baby smile, and blue-gray
The 1990 Boston Bruins highlight video, Reach for the Stars, narrated by Michael J. Fox, looks back on a season full of memories. The last-minute victories, emotion, and elation can be a part of your video collection for years to come. Go on the road and behind the scenes with the Boston Bruins as they reach for the stars. Available exclusively at all Lechmere locations.
Check out the top players in the world when 1990 Volvo Tour Golf brings you the Monte Carlo Open here on Nesson. Defending champion Mark McNulty will have to hold off a tough field featuring Ian Woosnam and Roger Davis. Plus, get a tip on how to improve your game from the reigning champ. So tune in for 1990 Volvo Tour Golf, Friday afternoon at 2 on Nesson.
The MIAA Championship Television Series, just one more reason to stay with Nesson, your ticket to New England sports.
This is Nesson, your ticket to New England sports.
We are at the Ramada Inn in Concord, New Hampshire, the headquarters for many of the Busch Grand National Series teams here for this running of the Budweiser 300. Eli Gold with Morgan Shephard and Chuck Bown. Paul is watching tonight on Prime Ticket in Los Angeles. Good evening.
Hello. I have a question for mainly Morgan, but also for Chuck.
Okay.
In the past, you've seen piles of tires with different staggers set up, and now with the radials, I understand that stagger is not the problem it used to be, which is going to change pit strategy. How does that affect you guys?
Well, it's not that it's the problem. It's that we can't do anything with the radials to change the size of the tire. We can change the air pressure a little bit, and that'll make the car turn a little bit better, but there's not a lot that you can do with the radial tire. You've got to do it with springs and shocks, mostly springs and with the Panhard bar on the race cars.
But bias ply tires, Chuck, and tire stagger or circumference is a major part of Busch Grand National racing.
That's true. We haven't had the opportunity to race on the radials yet, so we're strictly on the bias plies. So we're still working very hard with tire stagger and do a lot of adjusting with tire stagger.
A viewer in Brogue, Pennsylvania is next. Hello.
Good evening, Eli and Morgan.
Hello, Chad. How are you?
Hi. Okay. I just wanted to say you three did a great job down at Dover, Delaware.
Thank you. That's not an easy racetrack. I was saying it's not a tough racetrack. I slapped myself. That is a tough, whether it's the 200 laps the Busch Series runs or 500. That might be one of the best roller coaster rides, Chuck, you guys get anywhere, I would expect.
It's a fast, tough 1 mile racetrack, but really Dover Downs has been very good to me. I've got a couple of wins there back in the NASCAR North days, and I got a feeling maybe my first Busch Grand National Speedway win will come at Dover because it's been our strongest super speedway. And I really like the racetrack. I've got the most laps on it of the super speedways that we run on, so I get pretty excited about Dover.
Of course, the 1 mile track here is basically flat. It's nothing like Dover. Let's go down to Sylvester, Georgia for a questioner. Good evening.
Good afternoon. I would like to know where I can see the race at this weekend and what is an open gear in the Western Cup Series. I heard them talking about it last Saturday in Daytona.
All right, David. As far as television plans, I'm not exactly sure what they've got planned this weekend. It has been syndicated in many areas. Whether it can be seen in the Sylvester, Georgia area, I really can't tell you. You might want to check your local listings for that. As far as an open gear.
An open gear is, wait a minute.
An open
Lost
gear.
Me here, Chuck. Here, I drew a blank.
Is he asking, is there any regulations on the gear, or do we prefer to run an open rear end? An open rear end
is probably
which
what he's referring to.
Most passenger car automobiles have. No, we don't prefer that.
I wouldn't think so.
Just drives one wheel accelerating off the corners, and it just doesn't work very well.
Yeah, very much like your passenger car. Kind of caught us all off guard there. We're coming right back. More with you on This Week in NASCAR with our guests Morgan Shephard and Chuck Bown. Stay tuned.
You've asked for it, now it's here. The Winston Cup Hotline gives you a chance to hear directly from your favorite drivers. We'll tell you how the race went from our point of view and about our plans for the next race.
Whether or not I make it to victory lane, I always have an interesting story to tell.
And now, you can get the news about Winston Cup racing from your favorite driver. Just pick up the phone and dial 1-900-446-9287. Select your favorite driver and get the news straight from the horse's mouth.
1-900-446-9287. The Thunder rolls this summer. So don't miss Paramount's new movie, Days of Thunder. And stop at Exxon for your Days of Thunder family fun book. An inside look at the filming of Days of Thunder and news on NASCAR racing, games, driving tips, and all sorts of puzzles. They're available at participating Exxon stations. But they're going fast.
When you take your seat for the Texaco Havoline Grand Prix of Denver, you'll take a stand against routine boredom, blahs, and humdrum. With 3 days of the greatest party of the year, but you better grab a seat while you still can.
Now there's no reason to miss your favorite racing on TV. Racetime magazine each month provides the only complete and accurate TV listings of all motorsports, racing, and special features. Network, cable, or satellite. If it's racing on TV, you'll find it listed in Racetime. Racetime is not available on newsstands, so catch all the racing action by subscribing now. Call 1-800-RACES-TV. That's 1-800-RACES-TV. Why miss another race? Call now.
We welcome you back to Concord, New Hampshire for This Week in NASCAR. Next week, we'll be with you from Lake Harmony in the Pocono region of Pennsylvania, the Holiday Inn in Lake Harmony, hosting our show next week with our guest Sterling Marlin. So if you're in the area, come on out and say hello, or certainly join us right here on Prime Network. Our next caller is from Kings Mountain, North Carolina. Tommy is on the line. Hello.
Hi, Eli.
Hello there.
Hey, Morgan.
How you doing, Tommy?
Fine. Me and Chris is watching you tonight, and we just want you to know you've got a lot of fans here in Kings Mountain. Daddy and the whole family, and we're sorry to see the Motorcraft Board go out Sunday, but you keep that head up, and we're pulling for you, and we just want you to know it, and we'll always be behind you, Morgan.
Thank you. Do you guys realize the legion of fans that you have out there? Are you cognizant of how many folks are pulling for you?
Well, not really. When you're racing, you're thinking about beating the guy in front of you. But when we come to the racetrack, you know, like coming up to Oxford, Maine, and New Hampshire area, like I said, you know, I come up here to see everybody because they make us feel so welcome.
Sure. Dennis is watching in Manhattan, Kansas tonight. Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening.
How are y'all?
Very well.
I guess this question is for any of you, but probably is more directed to Mr. Shepherd. Why is it that there are no Chrysler products on the Winston Cup Tour?
Well, it could be like I was talking about the Ford V6s a while ago. The parts haven't been available. And I think the same thing with Chrysler. They don't have a body design that will pass NASCAR's rules, the right size body. I think that's the biggest reason.
That's a question we get many times. The Chrysler LeBaron is the closest to a NASCAR Winston Cup legal machine, and it's just too short, too skinny. It's kind of like the Chevrolet Beretta that was never legalized because of its size, even though it is legal in ARCA competition where Jerry Churchill and Donnie Moran run Chrysler products, nothing yet in Winston Cup competition. Penny is here with us, joining us in the hotel here in Concord. Good evening.
Good evening. My question is for Chuck. I understand that this is not the first time that you've worked with the Hensleys.
Yes, that's true. A long time ago, I traveled from Portland, Oregon with a race car to compete at Martinsville, Virginia in a Winston Cup event. And we blew an engine late in the day. And of course, NASCAR officials kicked you out of the garage area at 5 o'clock. So we were kind of down and out, and the final qualifying session was the next morning. And Hubert Hensley seen the bind we were in, and he lives right there in Martinsville, and he came up and offered us his shop. So we took the car right out of the racetrack and took it over to his garage and worked all night on it and brought it back and put it in the race and made the field. But, you know, since I've been around the Hensleys, I've heard hundreds of stories of people who have come to Martinsville, Virginia, and found themselves in a bind, and Hubert come to their rescue. There's been many people out there to their shops and horse pasture.
One of the great things about the sport, too, the way the competitors in many instances do help one another. Lloyd is watching again out on the West Coast in Redding, California. Hello.
Good evening.
Hello there.
I would like to know from Morgan. I have so many questions, but I guess I only have one here now.
Right.
On the Chevrolets, it seems like Dale Earnhardt, he accelerates so much quicker from a slower pace on a restart. How can you, Morgan, get the Fords so that you Fords can accelerate with him or hopefully out-accelerate him?
Good question. Is that car or driver in an instance like that?
Well, no, I don't think it's driver. Let's say we're behind on our restrictor engines. Earnhardt, his guys in the engine room, they've really done a good job with the engines, and I think that's one of the reasons that he ran away with the field down there the way he did. But, at Michigan, Bill Elliott had the same type deal. Bill's car was so strong down the straightaway. It's just some of the guys are behind on their engine programs, and they're really up on it.
Dave is watching in Weymouth, Massachusetts on New England Sports Network. Hello.
Hi, Eli.
Hey, how
I
you
really
doing?
enjoy your show.
Thank you, sir.
I think this statement is to Chuck. Chuck, we ran one of your 311s. I owned the New England Racing Pontiac, 01, Joey driving. And we've had some pretty good success. My big question is, we pit on lap 57 and no tires. You pit on lap 161. Where can we buy some tires?
Well, I went through the same thing last year in the Busch Grand National Series. I jumped out to the front a lot for the first 100 laps and found myself falling back in the second 100. And I've just kind of learned to pace myself and a few little things to do to the race car to make those tires maintain their pace a little bit better. And it's just experience, I think.
Charlie from Hudson, Massachusetts is next. Hello.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Chuck, I want to congratulate you on a very good race that you raced up in Oxford. I know you became the fourth two-time winner of it. I was just curious if you'll be back next year to try and win back-to-back and become the first three-time winner of it.
You better believe it. I'll be there.
Chuck Bown and Morgan Shephard joining us this evening. We're coming back with more of your comments on This Week in NASCAR. Don't leave us now. We'll be right back.
Someone like him
You want to control something that's out of control.
absolutely was the last thing she needed.
Control is an illusion, you infantile egomaniac.
I don't have anything else. And everything she wanted. Tom Cruise.
Now here's where it gets interesting.
Days of Thunder.
Show me.
Rated PG-13. Now playing at a theater near you.
Hi, I'm Rick Miller, inviting you to join me at the 3rd annual Stephanie M. Rhodes Legends of Sports Golf Classic on Monday, July 23rd at the Wollaston Golf Club in Milton, Massachusetts. You can play golf with sports legends and Hall of Fame greats from basketball, baseball, football, and hockey. And it all goes to a great cause, cystic fibrosis. For golf entry information, call 1-800-966-0444. See you there.
From the Trump Plaza in Atlantic City to the fabulous forum in Inglewood, California, NASCAR brings you the very best in boxing thrills. If you're a fight fan, you'll love the action right here on your New England Sports Network. So tune in as top contenders from both the pro and amateur ranks battle it out in the ring on MSG Boxing. Fight Night, the Golden Glove, plus much, much more. For the heavy hits and knockout blows, stay right here with NASCAR, your ticket to boxing.
We welcome you back to the show with just about a moment remaining with Chuck Bown and Morgan Shephard. Chuck, you're showing up to a brand new racetrack without any practice whatsoever. What kind of a setup do you have on the car? Do you just go with a neutral setup and work from there?
Yeah, basically, I think Jeff just has the same springs and shocks under it that we've been running on the shorter, smaller ovals, but we brought a whole lot of springs and shocks with us and the scales, and we'll probably be doing a lot of work tomorrow.
And I dare say your car's the same way, huh, Morgan?
Well,
What I try to do is identify to some track that I've run on, like Nazareth, Pennsylvania, has corners pretty much like this track, and so I just came with the same type setup.
Well, we'll find out tomorrow as practice resumes for the Busch Grand National Series. A reminder again that this time next week we'll be with you in the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania at the Holiday Inn in Lake Harmony. Sterling Marlin will be with us, the driver of the Sunoco Oldsmobile, as the Winston Cup Tour is back in action. Chuck, Morgan, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. I'm Eli Gold. Thank you very much for your calls and comments. We'll see you next week with another edition of This Week in NASCAR. Good night, everybody.
This Week in NASCAR has been brought to you by Plasticoat, the winning finish. By Exxon, the thunder rolls with Exxon and Superflow in Paramount's new movie, Days of Thunder. And by Today's Chevrolet, who invites you to see why nobody's winning like the heartbeat of America. This Week in NASCAR was provided facilities for production and some accommodations by the Ramada Inn in Concord, New Hampshire, offering spacious suites, mini suites, and rooms with all the comforts of a home away from home.